Oh, definitely. We've been talking all afternoon so far here at this cafe with this panel all about those interest rates. We watched Prime Minister's questions as well. Of course, it's here in the Midlands, particularly, it's such a heart of manufacturing, that these interest rates, this inflation figure as well, the news we've got that it's come down to 7.9%, that of course this really affects people and it really affects business here on the ground. So let's have a chat to our panel. We'll start with you, Steve. You run Clevedon Fasteners out in Sutton Coldfield here in the West Midlands. What was your reaction and your feeling when you heard that the figure inflation had come down this morning?
I think, like everybody else, I was quite pleased that it had come down more than it was predicted. I think it will give everybody a little bit of a feeling that perhaps the worst is over and we're going to start seeing some improvement. But from my point of view as a manufacturer, I look at the core inflation figure. The core inflation has only dropped by, I think, 0.3%. And the thing that affects my business is input costs. And input costs in 2020 were 22%. That's how fast our input costs were going up. It's now down to, last month, it was down to 0.5, which is a fantastic reduction. But what's interesting is what they call the factory gate prices. They're up at 2.9%. And so I think the Chancellor, bless him, has got a real difficulty because he says inflation's sticky. And I think one of the things that people don't like to speak about is greed inflation. And that's the fact that people are putting prices up, not because they need to, but because they can. So your phone contract will have gone up by up to 18%. That should be just RPI, but they put it up RPI plus 3.9. Well, you know, is your Candy Crush any better on your phone? You know, it's just not got any better. So I think that's going to be a bit of a problem. I'm old enough to remember the 70s, and that was wage inflation that pushed that up. Now there's a completely different scenario. Obviously, the interest rate rises with mortgages, all of these sorts of issues. The input costs to my business have been absolutely massive, and we've had to pass those on, and that just fuels inflation.
Shirley, now you are particularly, of course, impacted by the possible decision of a rise in interest rates. What are your worries at the minute?
Well, I've got some properties that I normally let out, which now, obviously, because of interest going up, mortgages go up. Obviously, the rent will have to go up, and then the people can't, they can't afford it anymore, which you try to help someone to get some housing.
So you worried about kind of losing tenants because the interest rates means you have to put your rents up, and it's kind of a domino effect of just increasing prices?
Well, the chances you have to sell. So nobody can buy houses. Not many people can buy houses. They obviously can't afford the rent anymore. And where are we going with that?
I mean, what would an ideal situation be for interest rates? We know we've got that Bank of England decision coming in a couple of weeks' time. What would you like them to do? Would you like them to stop raising interest rates now and stabilise?
Yeah, that would be great, because then everybody can afford housing, somewhere to live.
Okay, Mark, you worked in the banking sector for 25 years. What are your thoughts on the decision to keep raising interest rates from the Bank of England? What has been your feeling as someone that worked in that industry for so long?
I think the primary responsibility of the Bank of England is to retain the inflation rate at 2%. So they've abjectly failed to do that. And to punish the general public, the normal working people, by continually raising interest rates is just wrong, on the back of a cost of living crisis where inflation is going up. And it appears that the only solution that they've got is to raise interest rates. There's no other solution. It's almost as if this is the only way we can do it. The primary reason for the inflation rate being so high, aside from what's happened in the past, is the government's continual persistence with net zero. because net zero is driving up energy prices. Energy prices have a direct impact on the rate of inflation, and so therefore this is the problem that we're in. So I think to continually increase interest rates is creating problems for the normal working people, it's creating problems for people like Shirley, it's creating problems for literally everybody, and it doesn't really do anybody any favours. So I think the government need to look at what they're doing. The government need to look at and say, well, is there another way? You know, we're the only country at the moment that is persisting with this net zero policy, which is driving up energy prices, and everybody is being affected by that, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're a renter, whether you're literally everybody is being affected by this. And it's almost as if they've only got one solution: let's raise interest rates, let's raise interest rates. No, that's not the only solution. Let's have a look at our silly policy which says we're going to get rid of everything that brings energy costs down, and let's pursue this goal of net zero, which they're not going to achieve and actually don't need to achieve.
Mark, thank you very much. Shirley and Steve as well. They are some of the views here at the People's Panel in Birmingham, because it's here, and as you've been hearing, this is where the real impact is.